Hey everyone, I'm Pion and welcome to Prime Mover. What is Prime Mover, you ask? I like to call it a highly pixelated electronic circuit engineering puzzle game. It released last month, and this is what it looks like. So for the lack of a better word, I'm gonna describe this as a Tektronix-like, because that's what it is. You have an engineering problem, you have to solve it, and you have tons of options to solve it, and you will even get a Tektronix-like histogram at the end, which you will see in a moment. So this is the second level. It's pretty straightforward. In all levels, you have 4 in or outputs, A, B, C, and D. In this level, A and B are the inputs, and C and D are the outputs, but this can change depending on the level. You have a level description up here. It's called Bridge. Send A to D and B to C. So all the numbers in here go there, all the numbers in here go there. And you can scroll through the numbers if you want to. So the input of A is 1, 4, 3, 7, 6, 6, and the output of D matches that 1, 4, 3, 7, 6, 6. And you have to match them exactly to solve the puzzle. So you do so by building wires. And you do something like this, and then you realize, oh wait, they cannot cross, so you need a special wire, which is the bridge wire, which you can put down here, and then you can connect them. And now you can start the level, and you see the numbers moving. And when they come to the bridge, you see that they block each other, which is unfortunate because that slows down the whole process, and that's bad for your score because as in every good Tektronix-like, this game has two metrics to judge your solution. And this metric is chips, which is not important for this level because there are no chips available yet. We only have wires, which don't count to the chips count or the chips metric. The other metric is ticks, and that's how long it took to finish the solution. I took 30 ticks here in the solution, which is obviously the most straightforward or the most used or the most reach score, but there are better scores available, and as you can see down here in the leaderboard, I got a 26 tick solution myself, which I think is optimum. You get that by moving the wires around a little bit to make them block each other less, and that will speed up the whole process. But instead of doing that, because you can do that yourself if you want to play the game, we go to a little bit more complex level, which is this one. It's called Alternator, and the task is to send every number in A to the output in B, but add 1 to every other value of A. So 3 becomes 4, 45 stays 45, 5 becomes 6, and so on. So for that, we need a few chips, which we have down here. First of all, we need the separator. The separator works as follows. It has 3 connections, and we can connect it with wires, like this, for example. And now we can flip the starting state if we want to. And the numbers will go in there and flip the state of the separator, and that will alternate them to the outputs. The weird thing about this is this also works in the other direction. You can send things into the outputs, and they will go out. Well, you can send numbers into those 2 connections, and it will come out of this connection, because that's not necessarily input and that's the outputs. It works in both directions, which is true for most modules in this game, which is pretty interesting. We're going to talk about that later. So for this level, this is enough though. Now we have to increase the numbers, so we can use this chip, which either increases or decreases the numbers depending on how they move through it, and we can change the state if we want to. So oops, that's not what I wanted. There we go. So this will increase the numbers by 1, and now we have to merge the 2 wires, which doesn't work like that. We need a special chip for that, which is this one, which will just take all inputs and send them to one direction output. So we do this, it separates the numbers, it increases the ones here and not the ones here. That will go to the output, and that's also level. We can speed it up if you want to. Zack, there we go. We got a score. You can improve this by 1 tick. I'm not going to tell you how. You have to figure that out yourself. And we got an optimal chip score here, obviously, but you could use more chips if you want to and have this be more complex, but it's not really necessary in this level. Pretty straightforward to get the optimal chip score. That's not straightforward for other levels though. Let's get to a more complex level. This is the last level I have available right now. It's not the last level in the game, but the last one I have unlocked. I didn't try to solve it yet, but it's a good way of demonstrating. It's just a clear board to show you all the modules and stuff, so I'm gonna use that. But let's first take a look at the instruction to give you an idea on how complex the tasks become. Send C to A and send D to B. If C is -1, instead copy D to A. If D is -1, instead copy C to B. C and D are never 0. Like, even understanding what the task is asking you is a challenge in it of itself here. So, yeah, this is a little crazy. But let's talk about the modules we didn't talk about yet. Well, actually, we can review the ones we had already as well. So this I showed you that you can use this to merge inputs and send them to the same output. This works in all directions though, so wherever numbers come in here, even if they come from here, they will go in the direction of the arrow. So you can have them go back. So all the modules work in all directions, or all the chips rather, not modules, is what they're called, which is really, really weird. It's pretty straightforward for this one. But it gets a little bit more crazy with later ones. It's still straightforward with this one. This is a cloner. The cloner only has 3 connections. If I try to connect 4, it will disconnect 1. Basically, when one number goes into the cloner, it will clone the number and puts it out to the other 2 connections. So if a number goes in here, it will clone it to there and there. So one goes in here, one goes out there and goes out there. If it goes in here, it goes out there and there. Makes sense. Okay, straightforward. You can use that to copy numbers, obviously. So now it gets a little crazy. This is the filter. Filter seems pretty straightforward at first glance. It sorts numbers by 0, positive, and negative, and has 3 directional outputs, and all the negative numbers go there, all the 0 numbers go there, all the positive number goes there. You can flip that if you want to. That works. You can also, if it is connected, you can also flip the plus and minus, so that works as well. The weird thing is this thing has only 3 connections. You cannot have a 4th connection for this, which means that your input is also an output. Because if I send numbers in here now from this input, then yeah, positive numbers will go out there and zeros will go out there, but negative numbers will just come back and that will block the input wire, obviously. So that's a little weird. There's one level that's that evolves around that mechanic, and I didn't manage to solve it yet. I was losing my mind or breaking, I don't know, my mind just melted by trying to solve that last night. I'm gonna try that again, but last night it was late, I was tired, and I was like, what the fuck, how is this working? So yeah, that works a little strange. That's similar to the separator I talked about already. You can use that to either split an input, or you can use it to, oops, not what I wanted, to do something like this and merge the outputs, no, not the outputs, but merge the other 2 wires like this. So that works as well. So that's really interesting. Then we have the trash can that just deletes numbers. This is important because the level will not finish before you deleted all the numbers or got rid of all the numbers on the board. So they either have to go to an output, or if they're not supposed to go to an output, you have to deliver them to a trash can to delete them. Then we have this thing, which works in 2 directions, and you can flip it if you want to. And then now we're gonna talk about the lock. So the lock basically will lock the input. So if we send numbers there, they will just stop there. We can flip the state, and this will allow the first number to pass through, but as soon as it goes through, it will flip the state of the lock and will block the rest. This doesn't seem very useful, but if you combine it with another chip, the flipper, it becomes useful all of a sudden. The flipper can trigger or can flip one other chip, and you choose which one by flipping the flipper. So you can see it has like this circle thingy, and whatever chip is there, when the flipper is getting pressed, it will flip the state of that chip. So if we do something like this, you can see that the numbers here, well, they're blocked now. Bad example. So the first number will go through, will lock the lock, the flipper will unlock the lock, and this will allow the next number to go through, as you can see here. So that works. And now it gets a little crazy because you cannot do this with the lock, you can do this with all the other ones as well. You can flip this one if you want to. Right, well, let's actually disconnect this because we don't need to see the effect, but just need to see the thingy flipping. So we can rotate this one. We can flip this one if we want to, which will flip the minus and plus thingy. You can flip the separator if you so desire. And you can also flip this one, which allows for a crazy number of crazy solutions. I didn't really make use of this yet, except for the lock, but I imagine you can build pretty crazy stuff with the flipper and some other parts. So that's very interesting for me. And there's one more. This one. This is. I call it a subroom chip, maybe. So basically, it's a chip with 4 connections, so you can send numbers in there. And if you click on it, it will open a subroom, and those connections correspond to the 4 connections of the module of the chip. So this connection is this connection. So when a number goes in here, it actually goes in here and continues moving in the chip. And you can have some extra logic in here and send it out to another output. I didn't really use that yet. Well, in one level you're forced to use it, but besides that, I didn't really use it yet. It's obviously not great if you work, if you're trying to optimize for ticks, because it makes the numbers go longer. But I think it allows for pretty crazy solutions as well. So yeah, interesting chip as well. Then this is not a chip. This is just a UI tool. You can copy things with it, which is nice. So you can use it to move things around, which is very, very good. It will delete whatever is below it. So if you, it's a little unintuitive, so I'm show it really quickly because I was confused by it for quite a while. Basically, if you build something like this, and now you decide you want to move all of this one tile to the left, what you have to do is you select it, then move it one to the left, and then delete this line. And now this is what you copied, because it deletes everything what is below, but it doesn't erase the original thing. It's a copy, not a move. So that was a little unintuitive, but it actually works fairly well. I thought it didn't, but until I figured out how it actually works, it's actually useful. So there's that. Okay, let's talk a bit about other things. In general, the UI is a little weird. For example, if you have a chip here, if I want to connect with wires, I do that by dragging the wire onto it. I can even do that, and that's really interesting, if I have another module here, and I want to connect them, I don't have to select the wire. I can just drag between the two and it will connect them without selecting wire. Usually you have to select the wire to build wires, obviously, because if I select this module, it will chip, it will select this, build this chip. But if you're dragging from one tile to one occupied tile to another, then it will connect them. I think even this, if I do it like this, yeah. So I can have two wire dots here, choose a chip and connect them, it will connect them with the wire. So every time the two tiles are occupied by something, you can connect them with left clicking, no matter what you have selected. Oh, except for the copy tool, I guess, because that will actually copy it. Oh yeah, there's one inconvenience. Well, let's talk about wires first. So drag and drop for connecting, usually. However, not for the inputs and outputs. If I try to drag from the input, that doesn't work. Dragging to the input works, but not from the input. You delete with right click, by the way. And that is because clicking on the input will cause a breakpoint. So if I put a breakpoint here and do this, then the game will pause as soon as this is going to is leaving the input. Same here. You cannot drag out of it, even though you don't set a breakpoint here. But you cannot drag out of it. You can only drag into it or just click there. That will work as well. So they're always connected. And that's just, it happens so often to me that I try to build a line and this happens. Like you do this and what? Oh yeah. It's really unintuitive and really it's small, but it's annoying. It happens a lot to me. So yeah, it's a small nitpick, but it really gets on my nerves. So yeah, I have to put it out here. The other thing about the copy tool, which I wanted to mention, is usually you delete with right click. Whatever you have selected, if you right click, you delete. Not for the copy tool. As long as you have this one selected, it will actually switch between the copy mode and the selection mode. And that's confusing as well, especially if you have a bigger thing. So you will select this and you want to maybe delete something, or you want to move it somewhere else, and now you want to delete the other stuff. You have first to switch to something else and then delete it. It's inconvenient. It's inconvenient. It will also be nice to have a area deletion. That would be good. It's not too big of a deal because you can delete the whole board pretty quickly, but still. Okay, so talking about Tektronic style, we also have not only have Tektronic histograms, we also have Tektronic save slots. So for every level you have 3 save slots which you can switch between. However, they are a little inconvenient. First of all, you cannot. The most important thing is you cannot copy from one to another. What I like to do in Tektronics games is solve the level in the first save slot, then copy the solution to the second save slot, start optimizing it or fiddling around with it to find a better solution, and then maybe do the same thing again for the third save slot. That's not possible here because you cannot copy. So you build one, the solution one, then you think, okay, I want to alternate the solution a little bit, but I don't want to delete all the thing because maybe I have to go back to it because my idea is garbage. So what you have to do is you go to the second save slot, rebuild whatever you built in the first one, which can take a while if it's a complex construction, and then alternate that one, which is inconvenient, very inconvenient. And it happened to me that I didn't do that because it's inconvenient, so I build a solution, I start alternating it, figured out, okay, that was a dumb idea, wanted to reverse it. And that was a mess as well. There are undo and redo buttons. Z and Y will un and redo, which is good, but it's still, like, if you did 100 changes, that's still inconvenient. So yeah, not great. Also, there's no way of seeing the individual metrics for the different solutions without running them. So you can, if you go in the level selection screen, you can click here to see your score. Well, bad example. To see your scores, your best scores, but that's just your total best scores. So your best solution in ticks for this level, mine rather, is 265, and my best solution with chips is 5. And that's not necessarily the same solution. And if I go in there and take a look at the level, don't get spoiled. There's no way of seeing how many ticks the solution takes, even though it is my best solution for one of the metrics, I think, without running it. So I can run it and then get the score for it, but there's no, yeah, I have to run it, and that takes a while, as you can see here. Even on speed up mode, the solution runs for quite a few seconds. So that's super inconvenient as well. I know it shows me the score, but as soon as I go back here, it doesn't. Also, it took me a while to figure out. Wait, yeah, okay, this takes a few more seconds. In general, the UI is not super intuitive. Okay, this X button is pretty clear what it does, but other buttons are not. There are a lot of tooltips, that's really good. The tooltips are actually useful, they're really helpful. They actually showed me, explained me a mechanic I didn't know before, which I'll show you in a moment as well. This button, I completely ignored this button and I was looking for a button for where do I get to the next level, what do I do? And I always press this button, which I found highly unintuitive to leave this or to go to the next level, until I figured out, oh wait, this button is supposed to go to the next problem. It doesn't really, it just goes back to the screen, but still, like, I don't know, the UI is not great. This will also, by the way, show you there are little cinematics between the levels, and it will show you or between the chapters, and this will show the cinematic of this chapter. There's one more mechanic I want to show you. I'm jumping back a little bit, forward and back a little bit, sorry for that, but there's so much stuff to tell. So these are wires, regular wires, and you can click on them to make them purple, or to give them a little dot, and that makes them slow wires. So if we have a slow wire here, it will make the numbers stop for one tick before continue moving. This allows you to slow them down and separate them a little bit. And that's especially important because A, the numbers block each other, as you could see earlier. So slowing them down can be helpful by merging them together. And B, because this one, for example, will actually slow them down as well. So as you can see, the flipper will flip, then it stays there for a tick. Yeah, you can see what it does, right? So this is important as well, and the game doesn't really tell you this. The tooltip says it, click to target fast and slow wire. That's good, but besides that, yeah. Also, there are hotkeys for all those numbers, for all those chips, which is good. It's very important to have the wire quickly available, because you have to switch between the wire and the chips all the time to connect them, which is a little inconvenient. But if you have your left hand on the one, that works fairly well. In general, the control scheme is not perfect, but it's okay. It's okay. It doesn't really detract from the fun of the game, and the game is fun. It's also very challenging. It's really hard, actually. Like, the first few levels are pretty straightforward, and the first 2 chapters especially are super. Like, this is just introductions to the different chips, and like the first 2 chapters are super straightforward. But then it gets a little harder, and Chapter 4 is really where it ramps up the difficulty, and Chapter 5 is really crazy already. So this gets really, really hard. And I find it really hard to optimize for speed in this game. Like, this is usually my preferred metric in most Tectonic likes, optimizing for speed. And this is actually, like, usually in most Tectonic games, it's pretty obvious, or it's pretty easy to determine if you have the optimal speed solution. In this game, it is not, at least not for me. Maybe I just didn't figure it out yet, what the trick is, but it's really hard for me to figure out, is there a faster solution or not? Because I don't know. Optimizing in this game is not as straightforward as it is in other games, for me at least. So I find this quite interesting. Optimizing for chips is fairly boring usually, but optimizing for ticks is really, really interesting. But even solving the more complex levels is kind of hard already. However, it gets a little annoying. For the bigger solution, I felt frustration already because... Oh, what was that? Oh, there's a tooltip on this. Wait, where was it? There. It's a hint. I don't know. The aliens have a weird language. The trailers all have subtitles, but the subtitles read like this. So, yeah, you can't read them, which is weird. I don't know. Maybe they unlock when you beat the whole game or something. I don't know. It's a little weird. Maybe unlock if you beat a whole chapter? Actually, let's take a look. No, it's still like this, so yeah. I don't know. It's weird. Maybe they unlock at the end of the game. Without any more tubes, down. Omnibus. Oh, that's a translation for this. Omnibus. Is that helping me? I don't know. Maybe there's probably a secret here somewhere. You can figure out. So in total, there are 34 levels. This seems to be the last one. There might be more hidden ones. I don't know, but it definitely 34, which is an okay number. It's not super. It's not extra. Yeah, it's not a great amount, but it's okay. 34 levels and they get pretty tough later on. So there's definitely a few hours of fun here for you. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Let's take a look at the options menu. It's pretty minimalistic. You don't have resolution options because it's one of those pixelated games that just scale to your screen, whatever you do. You can go in window mode and resize the window and the pixels will just scale with it. So there's no real need for a resolution option, I guess. No borderless window mode, unfortunately. You can disable tooltips. This option is really important. Default is off, and then the text reads like this. This is an N. What the hell? Unfortunately, it doesn't fix all the text, but it fixes most of the text. So if you go into the game now with this option turned off, and we try to read stuff, it's annoying as fuck. Like, this is really hard to read. Tooltips are hard to read. It's annoying as fuck. Unfortunately, switching that option doesn't make the numbers nicer or anything, but at least the important text is now easily readable. So turn this on, please. I understand the need for stylized text, but still, wow. Separate sound sliders, that's good. Yeah, it would be nice to have rebindable keys and stuff, but yeah. In general, the art style. Like, I'm okay with pixel art style, but I don't like it if the pixels are as big as they are in this game. I get some people like that, and that's personal taste and personal preference, but I'm personally not a big fan of it. I like all the aliens and stuff, that looks cool. In general, the theme of the art is fine, and this looks especially pretty cool, I think, but I would prefer it if the pixels would be smaller and a little bit more detail. Like, especially if you depict humans and text with that few pixels that really I just don't like that, but it's obviously personal preference. The music is I didn't really notice the music so far. It's pretty subtle. I think it's pretty it's okay though. Like, it's not that's good for a puzzle game, right? Something chilly in the background which fits thematically, which it does. It's like a little spacey, alien-y, so that works well. And the puzzles are pretty cool, so I definitely recommend that. There are some issues with it, as I mentioned, with UI and stuff like that, but the puzzles are definitely fun. I'm gonna play more of this, definitely, for sure. It's called Prime Mover. It released last month. I'm a little late with this video, but I thought, hey, this is definitely worth showing you and sharing with you, because I know a lot of people who watch my channel are into Zachtronic-like games, and this is definitely one. Oh, actually, the Zachtronic itself, the official Twitter account, retweeted this game and mentioned that it has Zachtronic histograms, so they are endorsing the game as well. So I think that's a good seal of approval here, and yeah. Link is in the description below. It's called Prime Mover. I'm TH Point. Thanks a lot for watching. Have fun and see you next time.